Yo, 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 what's good, people? What's good, people? We are live,
Say that
we are
again.
live, we are live. It is currently 15 minutes past 7 p.m. UK time. We're starting this episode of the game very, very early because once a month moving forward, we're going to be at Crypto Mondays. Don't mind me and my coat. I just come from the outside world. Um, so I suppose I should do a quick disclaimer just to protect ourselves before before I leave the stream to Cairo. Let me just get that done. Yeah, so for those that have never seen us on YouTube before, we stream 3 times a week: Mondays, Fridays, Sundays, 8 p.m. Plus Mondays is a show called The Game, where we cover everything stocks, crypto, and dive into fundamentals. Fridays, NFC Fridays, where we talk about NFT. Sundays is Technically Speaking. We usually stream 8 p.m. plus UK time. Today's just a special occasion where we're starting very, 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 very early.
It's just
Um,
letting people into the room, so that's gonna have to be you. But then you've got to make sure that your audio doesn't positive feedback. This, okay, cool. So it should be good, right? There should be no feedback. Okay, cool.
here goes Cat.
Ninja, so go ahead and share your screen and run through the disclaimer quickly while they're
Yeah.
sorting the stuff out. Yeah.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right,
we
got
should,
you,
be,
got
we
you.
should be okay, Ninja. If you need to go for your walk, and then come back in 45.
Yeah. Let me just get a disclaimer. So, disclaimer: terms and conditions. All content is for education, information, and entertainment purposes only, and it should not be considered as investment advice or recommendation to buy, sell, hold any assets, nor place any trades. Please do your own research. Our content is intended and should not be used for informational use only. It is very important to do your own analysis before making any investments, which should be based on your own individual circumstances. You should always take independent professional advice from a professional advisor. Alternatively, independently research and verify all and any information you may find in our show. You may wish to rely upon whether you wish to make an investment decision or otherwise. All investments come with risk. Please always do your own research. Neither myself, Mr. Harding, Cairo, Keisha, anybody in this webinar are financial advisors, and we do not intend to be perceived or received as financial advisors. However, we're working in collaboration with several accredited financial advisors. If you're unable to mitigate your risk, let us know, and we can refer you to an accredited financial advisor. Okay, so let me just make everything nice on YouTube. Make it full screen. Very nice. Caro's the host. Let me make everyone else co-host. Very nice. Make Keish co-host just in case. Boom, 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 boom. Let me make sure everything's working on the YouTube, and then I'm gonna come back in.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off the sound at my end.
Sorry?
Okay. By the way, we are live, right? Ninja, we are live.
Yeah,
right?
we're live now, right?
Yeah, we're live.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay.
All right,
Back in 30, guys.
sweet. See you at 8.
See you soon, bro.
Cool.
All right, cool. Back in 30, guys.
Mute this. Sweet. See you at 8.
See you soon, bro. So yeah, today we got a very, very special episode of the game. Mike, do you want to tell everyone where you are right now? Well, Cara, do you want to say where you are right now?
Michael's sound is pretty bad. Oh, you've got to go out the way you came.
You said the sound was bad.
The elevators and then take the detour. It's not too far.
Oh,
No, not the sound is bad, but basically, teachers basically at Monday Mondays, right?
I'm dying for a week.
Yeah, I think all questions need to be typed. Okay, Michael's just said all questions need to be typed.
Typed, did you say?
Yeah, they need to be typed on the chat.
Yeah. Just then let the people know where you are at.
Yeah, he's very good time. When he came in today, it's actually one of the guys. I know a very good guy. His name is Don. Yeah, so I'm talking to him now. So, talking to the team now, so, thank you for the team getting on board at the right.
You also tell him one of Donnie's teammates from him.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind coming in and sitting down, there's plenty of space on the right hand side.
I wanted Carol or Michael to break the news, but I'll break the news.
Now.
Just let you guys know. So right now, we are live right now on the game. Obviously in partnership with Crypto Mondays. They're now at Market Mondays with Eurovision at their event at the Google headquarters, live right now. So it's a special one for you guys, and there's going to be lots of really incredible insight and different topics that we're going to have a lot of really incredible speakers covering. So yeah, it's exciting. It's a very exciting one today. So yeah, I'm gonna be quiet and let you guys check it out. So yeah.
Well, for those of you who are new, thank you so much for coming. Crypto Mondays has been going since about 2018, and we are dedicated to providing a safe, accessible space for anyone and everyone to come and learn about all things Web3. So we're an education initiative first and foremost, and a networking kind of fun vibe secondarily, but that part's also important. So yes, thank you all again for coming. I am super excited to introduce, first of all, our host for today, which is Google Cloud, actually. So I'd love to welcome Daniel up to the stage. And Drew, how do we change the?
Yeah, that's good to hear. Oh, okay. Well, hi everyone, welcome to Google. I'm glad to see so many of you turned up. We're super excited to host Crypto Mondays. It's the first time at Google, hopefully not the last time. So looking forward to talking to everyone and hearing about what you're building or working on in Web3. Maybe just a very quick introduction, as not everyone is aware of what Google is doing in Web3. We have a dedicated Web3 team actually in Google Cloud. There's about 80 of us in my team. I run our startup organization for Europe, so that includes Web3, also includes AI. If there's anyone here that's working on exciting Gen AI use cases, do let me know. Yeah, I'll get to this in a sec. So basically what we do in cloud is we build first-party Google products from our own engineering team focused on infrastructure solutions. So think about running nodes on GCP, Ethereum, Solana, Near, and many others, as well as data analytics solutions for on and off-chain analysis. So we build these solutions ourselves. They're available on Web3. And what you see here is we have quite a neat, I'd say, a startup program, which we have built for Web3 specifically. So if you follow this QR code, you can see what the program is about. If you're a founder or you're a developer, you want to get free credits, of course, you'll find free credits, but I think much more important, you'll find mentorships, you'll find grants from our partners like Hedera, Alchemy, Polygon, and many, many others. There's free Web3 solutions that you can use. So it's definitely worth checking out. What we're trying to do is not just bring the community together like we're doing tonight. You're probably familiar with our mission, which is to make information available and useful for users, and we do this at quite a big scale, as most of you know. This is also the mission we want to take to Web3, and I think if you look around in the world today, and I don't want to sound too dramatic, but I think the world really needs this blockchain community because we need people who are optimistic, we need the dreamers, we need people who are willing to build and lead the way to more positive, inclusive solutions. So hopefully that's what everyone here is going to do. Looking forward to the program with some really impressive speakers tonight, so I'm really excited. And yeah, looking forward to talking to everyone later. We have some food and drinks after the program, so it should be good. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Daniel. As you know, Crypto Mondays is a volunteer-led nonprofit group, so we couldn't do what we do without our sponsors. So massive thank you to Google for hosting us in this fabulous venue. We have a few other quick words from our sponsors, including Kudos. So Amit, you want to come on and say a quick word about Kudos?
Hi everyone. Glad to see everyone today. My name is Emma. I work for Kudos. At Kudos, our vision is to build a default computational layer for all major blockchains, and we plan to do that by bringing blockchain and compute together. We have launched our first product in April, which was distributed cloud computing platform. And this was a great success, mostly, of course, through the raise of like explosive growth of AI, but also due to the interest from the blockchain protocols. And within the next few weeks, we are very excited because we will be launching Web3 access to our platform. So that dApps will be able to access our distributed computing network in Web3 native way. So we will be supporting initially such chains as, of course, Kudos, but also Cosmos, Polygon, Arbitrum, and Optimism. And users of those blockchains will be able to connect their wallets and then to deploy our virtual machines permissionlessly and paying by crypto. And with it, like as part of our extensive roadmap, we're also planning to add additional chain and token support in future to make it easier for dApps to access computing power in Web3 native way. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome to the stage Anthony from Economy. Anthony, can you just give us a few quick words about what you guys do?
Hey everyone, I am from Economy. We are a digital asset portfolio management company. We're FCA registered here in the UK, and we have roughly £100 million invested across a variety of different portfolios. Now, when you think of a fund, you send your money to a fund. It could take 2 or 3 days to get your money invested. When you're withdrawing liquidity, it takes another 3 or 4 days to get liquidity back out of that fund. With what Economy does, you retain control of your assets at all times. They stay in your account. You simply mirror a professional portfolio manager at all times. So you choose when you want to invest, when you want to disinvest and remove liquidity from your portfolio. So while retaining ownership, you get the benefits of instant liquidity, but also the opportunity to outperform Bitcoin. So if your portfolio hasn't outperformed Bitcoin over the past year, I urge you to take a look at the website. We have a range of portfolios, index type portfolios or managed portfolios, and you can take your pick to the one that suits your needs and requirements. Cheers.
Thank you. So all this is live streamed on Crypto Mondays platform, and we do that for a bunch of other Crypto Mondays cities in the world. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Beam, so BEEN.xyz. So we're essentially a live streaming and live events platform on Web3, completely white label. So it allows us to provide an infrastructure that's a monetization infrastructure for sovereign creators and agencies. So we're targeting more influencer agencies, talent agencies, brands who want to have their own platform. So essentially, if you have your followers on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, but you also want to have your own platform for your true fans, that's what Beam is about. And there you can really monetize them on your own terms because you hold the keys to your assets, IP, royalties, data, users, and everything you want to invest in. So if you feel that you're part of the creative industry or sports or gaming, you can talk to us and we can set you up your platform. We're a bit like the Shopify for video in that sense. So we're very happy to support Crypto Mondays everywhere, and congratulations to such an amazing event. Thank you to Google for hosting us.
So I'm very excited to introduce our first speaker for the evening. Lavinia Osborne has been a supporter of Crypto Mondays London for a very long time, and we are community partners with Women in Blockchain Talks, which is her project, her company that she founded. So Lavinia, if you come on. Right.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. Congratulations to Crypto Monday on such a beautiful event and venue, and thank you to Google for hosting us. As Caitlin says, I've been part of the Crypto Monday community since 2019, so it's wonderful to see them grow as they have been seeing and watching women in blockchain talks grow. So without further ado, my talk is obviously around crafting the future of blockchain in Europe, but a little bit of a slant, touching on consumer awareness in the Web3 age. Okay, so the world of blockchain and digital assets is a landscape filled with promise and peril. It's a realm where innovation and financial opportunity coexist with challenges and vulnerabilities. My name is Lavinia Osborne, and I am an award-winning entrepreneur and founder of Women in Blockchain Talks, as well as a LinkedIn top voice in innovation and technology. Focusing on the topic of tonight, Eurovision, crafting the future of blockchain in Europe. What would be amiss not to talk about this from a consumer perspective, which is where I put a lot of my time, energy, and attention. The everyday person. And the reason for this is because last year, 2 of my NFTs, blue chip NFTs, were stolen from my MetaMask wallet. And doing what I do, I was able to reach out and get some support and take my case to the High Courts of England and Wales. In doing so, the courts granted me a proprietary injunction. In doing so, I was the first person in the world to be granted a proprietary injunction for an NFT digital asset. Set case law, and my case is now being used around the world for other cases. So this is a topic that's very near and dear to me because not everyone is in the position that I am in order to, take a case to the High Courts of England and Wales. And if you're interested in learning more, just Google Osborne versus persons unknown. So in Europe, we saw the passing of MiCA, Market and Crypto Assets Regulation, in June. And now it appears that the EU AI Act will be agreed before the end of the year. These regulations are, of course, part of Europe's digital targets for 2030. And this proactiveness on Europe's part is great to see. But how is this information being disseminated to the people on the streets? It will be through grassroots communities such as Crypto Monday, and they have one in Switzerland, one in France, and Women in Blockchain Talks global chapters. Women in our Blockchain Talks at present has global chapters, aka in-person events in Berlin, Warsaw, Manchester, UK, and Barcelona, with more chapters opening in the coming months. The focus of these chapters, of course, is on blockchain advocacy and education, as well as consumer awareness and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly in regards to women leadership. I think we only have to look around the room to see that there is a gender gap. And some people will argue, well, the space is open, we're stopping women from coming in. It's a lot more intricate than just that. And so efforts should be made on all of our parts to make this space as as diverse and inclusive as possible. By working intentionally, collectively, and collaboratively to improve the Web3 space in these key areas: advocacy, education, DEI, we create for the many rather than the few and craft a future blockchain space in Europe and across the world that we can all be proud to be part of. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you. And if you want to find out more information, this is the QR code for Women in Blockchain Talks. Right, without further ado, we're very excited to announce our main speakers. So Erwin and Eugenio, if you guys want to come up here. Head of Policy and Head of Growth respectively for the European Blockchain Association. We're very excited to hear from you guys. Guys, let's give them a very warm welcome.
Hey. You hear me okay? Everything's fun? Good, good, okay. All right, just a disclaimer, this is my first Crypto Mondays, so very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting us. Really looking forward to the talk. So the title is, the Eurovision, embracing blockchain potential for the future. And what we thought would be interesting to talk about today specifically is a manifesto that we recently published. We launched it at an event with the European Commission's Director for Internal Market last week. We worked on this with the 3 other leading blockchain associations at EU level, Blockchain for Europe, European Crypto Initiative, and INATBA, who I'm sure many of you are probably familiar with. If not, look them up. They also do excellent work for the industry. And, we divided this manifesto into 3 different pillars, one focusing on the single market and competition, one looking at sustainability, and then one broadly around digital transformation. Now, these are like really large and bold terms. And I think that it's probably good to preface that we were writing this initially preparing for the Belgian Council presidency, so they're taking over for the Spanish now. And then not only that, the new college of the Commission, because we have European elections next year, and of the Parliament, right? So we're gonna have a fresh class of MEPs next year, and we're gonna have a fresh commission. So the priorities of that commission are probably gonna shift more so with regards to strengthening the single market, creating jobs, upholding or maintaining the work that's been done around the EU taxonomy and what you can salvage currently from the Green New Deal, because it kind of picked up a little bit politically towards the end. So when we wrote this manifesto, we were writing it for the policymakers now, but more so we were trying to speak to the policymakers that we don't know personally yet. And from a stakeholder perspective, you always have to find your champions, right? So I think it's important just to clarify that from the beginning. And we are going to talk about regulation because it weaves its way inextricably into this discussion throughout all of those pillars inevitably, right? So I'm going to let Eugenio kind of hit it off, and then we can get into the broader and more solo points.
Well, thank you, mate. First of all, can you hear me properly? Okay, so just a quick word about myself. I mean, when we intended to write this manifesto, looking at the market perspective, we really thought about something that could really represent the market industry in terms of different services that are provided to the users. And so we tried to address different service lines, which among different pillars over this overall European ecosystem, blockchain technology can support as a huge step in terms of reducing disintermediation, create more efficiency between different peer-to-peer interactions, and also remove frictions from a regulator perspective, but actually create a leverage over one. So we are likely now we'll go more into the deep dive into 3 main pillars that European Union has seen as a key area where blockchain can really make the difference. And for instance, the first one is for sure the area of the European single market, because the possibility of free trade of goods has been one of the main priority for the EU, for Europe since its own origination. And moving from a real economy to a data economy, we really see the need of blockchain as an enabler to feed the data economy with the concrete infrastructure, which can actually allow different users and service providers to deliver services to the users at the end. So when I'm speaking in concrete words, I'm saying, for instance, in the UK, we have recently approved the Electronic Trade Bills Act. which actually will allow to create instrument on smart contract like bills of lading, bills of exchange. These are concrete and great digital documents that can reduce the cost of the operation of the services overall. And so can really make UK, but also Europe, efficient market globally. Then the other pillars like sustainability, for instance, if you wanna make a few words.
Just to briefly also say, I mean, when you talk about the single market, one of the benefits of Europe is that you have, a 13 plus trillion consumer economy. Doesn't have the same, let's say, velocity as the United States, but in terms of concrete value terms, it's the largest in the world. What you really need to look from that perspective is how can blockchain help to create a more efficient, deeper, and broader single market, and also how can it reinforce the capital markets union, how can it reinforce the tokenization of services across, let's say, a broader context. I participated in a working group last year called Tokenize Europe, which had a bunch of different providers from the payment services space. We had banks, we had industrial players, automotive manufacturers, chemical companies. And the whole point was, how can Europe achieve a token economy? What are the concrete things that we need to do to get us from where we are to what we keep talking about and preaching and pontificating on? And the main thing that we came, aside from education, which is necessary not only for the consumers, but for the policymakers, and I myself am a former policymaker. I've worked with the Commission, I've worked with the ECB, so I've seen it on both sides of the spectrum. But more than that, we need concrete tokenization working groups at EU level. So aside from the way that the blockchain is currently being discussed, it's kind of disparate across different Commission directorates. It's being discussed in different, committees in the Parliament, like ITER and Econ. We need a dedicated tokenization working group that can kind of pull all of these sinews together. And from there, we need dedicated lighthouse initiatives. So this working group could identify a concrete project. You could have a call to action where you could actually have startups, SMEs that are there. You can have a dedicated access to funds. So right now, a big problem is that if you have regulatory sandboxes, a lot of the times the companies that can apply to those regulatory sandboxes have to have a certain turnover minimum, right? Or a technical readiness level as well. So technical readiness levels go from like 0 all the way up to 9. You have to be somewhere where you're already at like an MVP stage, or you're pre-customers, you have customers to even be able to apply. The ideational stage companies and the ones that are below that don't get the chance. So the access to funding for the SMEs, which are like 99% of the European economy, is not there yet to be able to match that in lockstep. And so through these lighthouse initiatives, you could actually have those dedicated funding instruments that would be able to realize those use cases. And it would also prevent partalism. It would prevent natural monopolies from forming. You'd have greater competition and an incentive for companies to actually want to build and scale. On sustainability, we have the EU taxonomy and the Green Deal. Now, I know a lot of you have probably seen, over the last year or two, especially, there was a big scare around whether or not, the Parliament was looking to ban proof of work. I was involved in that from a policy perspective, trying to educate policymakers, rally the troops. I have to say that we should give policymakers a little bit more credit. There's still a lot of people in government who understand that it's not that easy as just banning proof of work. And the questions are a little bit more nuanced. The Commission recently launched a tender for close to €1 million to create sustainability indicators, right? Because this is part of MiCA. So crypto asset service providers, asset reconciliation issuers, as part of the white label, as part of the white paper requirements, are going to have those sustainability indicators. How do you create a methodology for sustainability indicators, right? And so the EU is looking at these kind of things. And then you have the European Security Markets Authority. They have their level 2 consultation on MiCA, which is also in parallel to what the Commission is doing from the supervisory authority's perspective, looking to set those up as well. So we have sustainability is obviously a huge priority in Europe. So how do you leverage that into the future without stifling innovation? And we need to advocate more in terms of finding a balance between what can ostensibly constitute a sustainable impact of blockchain and what in and of itself might just be a limiting factor to growth. At the end of the day, companies need to have the confidence that they can scale in the market. And you need to be able to balance that with the requirement that companies are also stewards of the economy and not just for-profit businesses, because we keep moving towards this ethos of a more circular economy now. And, if we can practice what we preach, this is going to require a bit of an adjustment mechanism to come into reality. It's not going to be, a title shift overnight. Otherwise, we're going to have huge structural problems. And so this is a huge let's say, minority, but also one that, in my own personal opinion, may not get the attention it deserves in the next parliament, specifically because the priorities of that parliament might change. On digital transformation, and this is probably one of the most exciting. I was speaking to somebody earlier. There's over 120 different pieces of regulation at EU level that govern digital transformation and digital services across product licensing and standards, cybersecurity, blockchain, data economy, AI, all of that. Over 120 pieces. How do you make all of that speak to each other? Just think about that. These are disparate regulatory elements. Okay, specifically what we do have in Europe, at least from a public services perspective, and Jenny can touch on this a little bit more, is the opportunity for cross-border digital services through the EFSI network. So European Blockchain Service Infrastructure. You can think of this as, it's not a, wouldn't really call it a sovereign blockchain, but it's as close to it as you can get probably at the level of Europe. And specifically how EFSI ties into identity and how identity is Europe's story to tell. I think this is a massive priority that we need to focus on as well, and to encourage the development of these innovative business models.
Well, yes, I totally agree. But I mean, I would like to start on this with some numbers because I'm the market guy, so I need to start from this. We are currently having like more or less 31 million users of crypto-related services in Europe, but we have more or less 700 million digital wallets in Europe. So how can we have crypto and blockchain-based services to reach those numbers? I would place a step back and say we need cross knowledge and industry collaboration. So when regards to innovation, we need to implement business models which are, in one sense, taking from the actual Web2 space and evolving into token economics ratio, which can be sustainable into the Web3 space. Also, this can be applied in sustainability as well, because you may, when you need to develop a taxonomy and metrics to elaborate over that taxonomy, you need a different range of competence, which is the same ratio that can be applied in the business model as well. So to come back on the digital transformation side, you may think about Europe as a big macro-federated area with different national member states, okay? Each of them will may be represented in the future as one acting a role in these European DLT networks. These European DLT networks will allow and will take leverage of the DLT technology to register information between exchanging information across member states. And these will be leveraged because of common data regulation and so on. Over this, Europe has made an additional effort. The effort is the following. Let's try to create a product standards over our application services that can be used by all citizens and can be the gateway access to receives as input different data point for exchanging this cross-border information, which is the European Digital Wallet Initiative. The European Digital Wallet Initiative is now then framed into a specific data regulation that we can talk about. It is the IDAS 2.0 and is now serving as becoming a European product standards to essentially make 2 points high level, support the development of digital infrastructure, and in the context of blockchain, supporting the transition between Web2 services to Web3 services, and second, provide product standards which can then be applied to identity services, to DLT and blockchain and crypto. I mean, different niche of the market that we may speak about it in a different context.
So I mean, broadly on the digital wallet, it's compatible with W3C verifiable credentials, right? So it basically kind of anchors to the JSON LD format for the identity people in the room. You have different identity standards, right? You have JWT, you have ACDC, which is carrier network, right? Which is used by Life. But basically, each member state under this EIDAS revision, and EIDAS is Europe's digital identity regulation, as it broadly conceived, and to govern the digital signatures and cross-border digital goods. Each member state is going to have to make this digital wallet available to its citizens. And so, from let's say, a privacy standpoint, why the EU decided to go with verifiable credentials is because they're held off chain, right? So these are metadata that you yourself own, contrary to, for example, like a sold-on token, which is basically a face tattoo. So it's not transferable, it's not fungible, it's on chain. Once it's on chain forever. From the perspective of like person identifiable information, it's really important that you as a user have control over, what specific data you want to share for what specific purpose. And so that's why the digital wallet architecture reference framework is based and anchored into the W3C format. Now, broadly within the architecture framework, you have different like business verticals. Okay, you have supply chain, you have healthcare, you have trade, you're going to have financial services. And for our discussion today, let's focus on financial services. What's going to be really interesting is to see how product standards can align with the European digital wallet to create fungible, reusable off-chain financial identities that you could potentially port from one exchange to another, cross-onboarding from one platform to another. And then these could be, let's say, fungible with an on-chain, I don't know, let's say compatible with an Ethereum attestation, or if you still want a sold-on token. But you're going to need to have that division of data between what's on-chain and what's off-chain to square that with obviously with GDPR, or potentially even Data Act, if you have data sharing agreements that are using smart contracts. So there's a lot of pieces here, but everything in the future with regards to how you're going to scale DLT services in Europe is going to have to be anchored in identity. That is the linchpin, the crux, the capstone. And for what it's worth, Europe didn't win the cloud race. Okay, we didn't win the space race either. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But when it comes to identity and self-sovereign identity more specifically, Europe has the opportunity to get that 31 million closer to that 700 million coefficient rather than leaving this imbalance. You have the necessity also in the future, from a regulatory perspective, a lot of my day-to-day now is dealing with things like staking, liquid staking, DAOs. How do you treat DAOs? How do you treat a DAO that runs a staking protocol or that is broadly involved in a liquid staking protocol? Identity is an important means for how you could potentially in the future get some flexible legal form for DAOs. I'm not talking about a legal wrapper. I'm talking about a Web3 primitive legal identity. That's what you're going to need for DAOs. And you could scale that through identity, potentially. There's a few kinks to work out, but we could get there. And Europe could be the jurisdiction that could launch that first, in a way that you don't only have foundations doing this, but foundations then can't be for profit. They can't do this. I'm talking about an actual fungible legal identity for distributed decentralized autonomous organizations. And then you can start talking about the other downstream consequences. And we have the infrastructure where you can do this. From a citizen level, I think it's also extremely important that we encourage citizens and we empower citizens to understand why this is important for them in the first place. A lot of us here come from different backgrounds. We come from different levels of technical literacy. But Joe and Jane Public broadly, I mean, they don't care what's on the back end, and they shouldn't. They really shouldn't. Blockchain is a back office process. It's exciting for people that are into back office stuff, but for most people, it's completely unnecessary to know what it is, what's going on, as long as it works. So they need to know what
provide efficiency.
Exactly. They need to know what the UI, that the UI is seamless and that the value is there. And I think this is something that we as an industry need to do better. And part of our daily life is also that it's educating people on the value for this. Like, what is the per unit value of, for example, why you need to store your own data, why you need to get yourself educated on these things, why you shouldn't just accept every cookie policy. I think this is generally more of an educational shift that's going to happen with time. But I would still say that from a regulatory perspective, I'd rather be in Europe than in some other jurisdictions in the world where, for example, a citizen-centric approach probably isn't the starting point. At least we have a bit of a head start, but it's a head start that's not going to last forever. And so I think that an opportunity for the UK, I will say, really, is going to be stablecoins. Look, recently there's been 3 or 4 different discussion papers that have come out on stablecoins. Provided the FCA gets this right, the UK could revive the euro-dollar market, same way they did in the 60s and 70s, but with stablecoins this time.
maybe something that would be nice to highlight on this is at least something that I have personally seen coming from the market is like with the MiCA regulation, which provides some like initial regulatory treatment for crypto asset service providers, which are issuing asset reference tokens and electronic e-money tokens. What they've seen coming from the market is now looking at service providers, startups, which are operating in the market, which are pulling up tokenization process, which have specifically requirements which are mandatory by the law, by MiCA, and which are trying to push that over, I don't know, Ethereum Foundation and other foundations as a way to enforce compliance services. So, for instance, you will have for asset reference token issuers and electronic money token issuers specific requirements to be admitted in order to be able to issue those tokens and to be able to interact as a user over a trading venue, which is giving you the possibility to trade this token. And what I'm seeing now is I'm seeing popping up proposals that are following those requirements to build a compliant solution. This is really where Europe can show how regulation can foster innovation in some sense, because if you have industry back you up, then you're building a compliant services and you're building a better future in the end.
Maybe one thing we could just briefly discuss, I don't know how much time we have left.
Okay.
I'd say broadly is another public good that Europe is working on, obviously, is the digital euro. Okay. CBDCs get a mixed rap depending on where you stand and how you view them, whether you appreciate the value and utility of a retail CBDC or the wholesale CBDC or both and neither. The fact of the matter is that the ECB currently entered a preparation phase. They're looking to launch this thing, within the next few years, and it's also going to have to be compatible with European digital wallet. When you square that, for example, Amazon is building the prototype, the e-commerce use case for the ECB for the digital euro, and you see that the European digital wallet has to be compatible with the digital euro, it's going to stretch it. Kind of close the loop. And so, from a personal perspective, I see a bit of a problem with that because you're basically handing over the keys to the kingdom to Amazon. And then the ECB reserves the right and says, well, we don't actually have to use any of the prototypes that are being built. Will they, won't they? Not my place to say.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is that this is a public good that is either going to be really great if it's accepted, or it's going to be a lemon. And this is for CBDCs, retail CBDCs anywhere in the world, generally. You have incumbents that are building deposit tokens like HSBC, like Societe Generale, like JP Morgan. When I'm looking at this, like if I have a company here and I have 2 other subsidiaries in different jurisdictions and it's the same intercompany lending arrangement and we're already settling this between us, well, why do I need a CBDC for that if I can just use a deposit token? Like, what's the use case? So a big challenge with these larger public infrastructure projects is also going to be like, hey, how do you sell that from a retail perspective to the public? And then how do you in parallel build wholesale infrastructure that you can also use as a competitor? Because look, you're still going to have payment service providers, you're still going to have MasterCard, you're still going to have co-badging on GiroPay and bank contact and all that stuff.
I personally see a possible use case for CBDC, but only for public-oriented services like voucher and service, different kind of.
But then it's not money. I mean,
yes,
from a monetary law perspective, right? If you have one of the 3 functions is out, it's not money.
The form of money changes over the time. So.
Yes. This is the part of the discussion where we argue with each other. No, I mean, look, it's important to talk about this stuff, frankly, because I get a lot of questions about that as well. Like, is the government trying to control my money? I honestly, I work there. I really don't think that that's the goal of the institution. I don't think that this is really what they want to do. I think that, the impetus for this came out of a fear of DM and Libra. And then from there, they saw that, the European Payments Initiative kind of floundered, and they have MasterCard and Visa, which are massive competitors in Europe. And they're like, hey, let's build something that's European native and that can kind of compete against this. I think it came from a good place. I just think that scaling it is generally going to be a problem anywhere in the world to try it. broadly because, you know, we also need to do better to educate people on why they need to have trust in public institutions. A lot of the trust in our democratic institutions has kind of floundered a little bit, especially since COVID. And I think that this is not something that we can do. This is something that has to come from the policymakers. We're here to walk that road with them as a partner, because we see value in supporting, you know, the democratic principles that our society is anchored in. But at the end of the day, we need to do better in terms of how we come across and how we execute and how we talk about these things. Should we open the floor to questions? Because I feel like we've talked your ear off, and I'm sure there's probably questions.
Hi, Michael from Blockchain Sensei. We're a financial literacy and blockchain education company. One of the biggest fears for consumers, which general everyday people is obviously programmable money. But is there anything that you've seen in terms of programmable money where the people choose where the government spend their money?
So I think one of the best examples of programmable money pilot would probably be Project Orchid, Monetary Authority of Singapore. So it's essentially like some programmable voucher system, right, where it's certain spending conditions. I think that programmable money is, I should distinguish this. Programmable money isn't necessarily bad, depending on how you use it, right? So if you have like an asset as a service use case, right, or pay-per-use models, you can't do these things without programmable money or programmable payments, right? You know, they're calling it conditional payments under the enabling regulations of the digital euro. You cannot do these things without programmability built in at the level of the smart contracts, right? Because, you know, your ERP system is not going to be able to support that on the database. You're going to need this at the smart contract level. I think specifically what the fear probably and where you're coming from is citizens generally have never had a say in how governments spend their money. I mean, we vote for elected officials with the hopes that these elected officials live up to their campaign promises. There is money that needs to be spent, and we hope that they allocate this efficiently. It's not always the case, but the democratic participation is a diffuse process. So, you know, in political economy, we say that people have a residual claim on the vote rather than a direct claim on the vote, and then insiders have a direct claim on the vote. That would be like a critical perspective on that view. You know, coming back to the programmability part, I don't think it's necessarily bad. I think it needs to be tailored for the right use cases. I don't think that voucher systems for people, and again, that's my view, is the way to go. And I certainly wouldn't want cash to disappear fully. I think that so long as we have cash, you can guarantee offline payments to an extent, unless there's an EMP, then you can't guarantee anything. Unless you want to go back to a barter system, you need some way to ensure that, you know, that good or that service still has the same equitable value from day one to day two. Otherwise, you know, you're going back to a system that's not supportable and it's not long.
Maybe it would be also worth it to mention that when it comes to programmable money, I mean, when it comes to essentially also B2B programmable money, there has been a huge effort from the European Union to develop the identity, not just for citizens, but also for assets. So a big project inside the European Union is the so-called digital product passport, which has been also developed by different service providers also in the European and global context. This is because Europe understands that identity is not just the users, it is also data sets related to an asset, to a product, which combined with the users actually triggers those programmable money payments solutions. So this is, I mean, if you think about identity as a data anchorage from users and from asset perspective, then you have automated transaction, you have programmable money.
Hi, great session, thank you. I'm interested in the point that you talked about the people, and I do want to take it back to that. You talked about blockchain being a back office, and I think you said John and Jane, that they need to know that stuff. And I guess for me, I'm kind of a bit confused because I feel blockchain is a fundamentally different way of operating and a way of empowering people so they own their own assets. But they need to understand what it is to be able to do that. So it's not like the current systems where we have back office stuff telling. We need everyone to understand and be able to use the blockchain to empower themselves. So I'd just like you to talk a little bit more about that, please.
Sure. What I meant is that, you know, if you're like a general citizen who is not in the space, you don't need to know that the thing is working on, you know, a multi-sided, multifunctional smart contract that can process X amount of transactions per second with this amount of latency and blah, blah. You just need to know that the underlying data that you are sharing is secure, and the UI for you needs to be seamless enough that it is not an afterthought in you using it. Like the reason people like to tap with their cards is because it literally requires no thinking. You just do this and you've paid for something. You know, setting up a MetaMask wallet is easy if you've done it, you know, but my dad was a risk manager at the bank, okay? Getting my dad, who comes from the financial services sector, now that he's been retired for a few years, trying to get this guy to understand how to do this stuff, even somebody who comes from capital markets and spent his life in that industry, wasn't easy. So I think that like the UI needs to be seamless, that it's an afterthought. And this is what I say, this is what I meant when I said that people don't need to know about the back, because ultimately all of it really is a back office process, an iterative back office process in one segmentation or another. What matters is that people understand why that back office process is necessary. It's necessary because you need to be a sovereign citizen. And this is the fundamental thing that we need to educate people on, and this is where the value lies, right? And I think that this is also more and more important in a post-quantum future where you're going to need to have quantum-proof blockchains. You need to deal with the different data breaches because hacking is getting sophisticated. For every one white hat hacker, there's 3 black hats that spawn. And so I think that that's ultimately another challenge, that the infrastructure needs to keep up with the pace of the means to circumvent the infrastructure from a security perspective. And again, this isn't something that citizens need to know specifically. They just need to know that the thing that they're using has gone through those checks and run those hurdles.
I would say that there are 2 phases of the matter, right? On one hand, you need to enhance security measures like with quantum computing, and on the other side, you need to make the technology easier. And this is where account abstraction comes into place, right? This is why we believe that identity features like verifiable credentials, so different types of identity services, authentication, plus, and let's say framed into actual business standards and resolved into a higher level of abstraction where you have different your own personal data access point can really make the difference of making scale blockchain services, because then you will have easiness of use or easiness of access. You will have the technology as a backbone to provide the efficiency, and you will have the glue in the middle with smart contracts to provide the data transfer essentially.
I'm Jean-Pierre Bell, and I am the CEO of AgriLeisure. And I'd like to ask you a couple of questions because I'm hearing certain things being thrown in, identity and also data and data sovereignty. At this time, I would like to understand how do we actually expect the blockchain that exists to be providing that sovereignty? And I think sometime in the blockchain space, we are bypassing the work that has already been done in identity management and understanding the fully qualified identity. So we should be careful before we start talking about wallets and talking about people's data being safe unless we can demonstrate where keys are being held and how that data is being distributed. I commend the fact that yes, Europe could be the place to go because this was one of the first places that we saw identity management. But as the first person said, we still need to get the education correct so that people can understand what actually is happening. And furthermore, I think that there is this idea, we keep talking wallets. Not everybody, even in the Europe, has access all the time to a smartphone because the data is too expensive for them to be able to afford that. So we need to look at different ways which are not going to be relying on technology which are so advanced. So I'd like to see how the European Union is really addressing these things.
like from a cash perspective, so I mean, the ECB released their 2030 cash strategy back in 2020, so I mean, they're at least making cash available into 2030. If you look at the percentage of like cash as a means of payment in member states, it has dwindled over recent years. One of the last things I worked on at the ECB was Space 2, a study on payment attributes of consumers in the euro area, and one of the things we looked at was specifically, you know, the equivalence of cash versus card payments versus, you know, POS payments and things of that nature. The thing is that it is dwindling because as generations are entering their income earning years, there are generations that have been progressively reared on technology and they're progressively more assimilated into using contactless payments and things of this nature. And cash isn't such a cultural project for them as it was for, let's say, incumbent generations. But I completely agree with you that you can't just leave people behind either because they lack access to finance, lack access to bank accounts, they're sitting below the poverty line and don't qualify for a bank account. Education is one thing, but making sure that we don't end up in, you know, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World is another. And I wouldn't want to live in that system myself. So I think that this is why there needs to be a balance. I'm not a utopian when I talk about technology. I think that technology is fundamentally, it's a utilitarian good. But at the end of the day, it's what you make of it, and it's what we as a society make of it, and the value that we place on it in terms of our body politic. But we also need to be able to have other means of exchange and other means of getting people involved. And that also has, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you sit on that argument, it has to do with balancing the analog with the digital, at least for now. In terms of identity, yeah, I agree. Like we've come a long way since Shooter locked up and looked at curves and all of this stuff. Ultimately, there's still problems with multi-sig wallets, and Eugenia, you can probably touch on this in a little more detail.
Well, I would say that the upcoming regulation is also treating very carefully offline and online data, which are in the way in which is treated, and of course is fully framed into the qualified attestation status. So it's not only belonging on such sovereign identity for like regulatory reasons, and also from market perspective, we may see different kind of services provided for free, for paid. This is where actually identity show his multi-layer composability. So you will have some attestation provided for free for users because they are granted rights, and of course you will have additional identity attestation that will be given for probably for paid reasons because they will enable for business services. So and I totally agree with you that there is a huge amount of education work, especially when it comes to manage key system to a self-managed key system identity that needs to be done, and it's ongoing, and it's gonna be a lot much more slower than the technology adoption. That's where we are. That's our role, of course, also as an industry player.
Hi. Hi, thank you, Eugenio and Owen. My question is pertaining to something you touched on, Owen, about kind of the animosity and the distrust in the blockchain industry. I've personally worked with controversial figures in blockchain, and I think quite lucky to have done that. But since kind of COVID-19 specifically, what effort has the EBA made since then, if any, to kind of rectify that in terms of tangible efforts? I sort of feel there's a bit of an air of animosity surrounding it. I get a lot of funny looks when I go to climate events and my company name is on my badge, and they say, "Oh, you're responsible for all of this." So please, yeah, if you would, curious to understand what that kind of, what's it, company body or organization has done to rectify that.
Sure. So engagement with the public sector comes in peaks and troughs, and it usually follows the policy cycle. And this is broadly the same for everyone, either if you're a new level association or you're a member state level association. So I mean, a lot of the advocacy work that we were involved in over the last year was obviously MiCA, was the pilot regime, and MLR, so the money laundering regulation, the Data Act, which consumed a full year of my life. Still have PTSD from that one, but it's over the hill. So broadly around, let's say, like the post FTX. But even before that, with Celsius and Voyager and all of the stuff that happened, I was still at the bank. So for me, I joined the UBA in October of 2022, and I basically had to deal with the fallout that was yet unresolved from that happened at the same time as the EU was looking to set limits on self-hosted wallets and do other things with regard to their funds regulations to implement the FATF travel rule and all of this stuff. So I was dealing with the tail end of that, and then I was basically thrown into Mika. And this became the thing that everyone was talking about. And so honestly, aside from as many policy meetings as you can get with stakeholders across any DG that will listen to you, talking to the EBA, talking to ESMA, talking to different regulators. We publish research as well. We published a paper in January of this year on looking at how to regulate decentralized finance. We recently published a paper on looking at staking specifically from a new regulatory perspective. So I'd say we're trying to preempt problems before they happen. Because one of the things that regulators are looking at now over the next 18 months is inextricably going to be staking and lending and how that might or may not relate to MiCA, whether we're going to need a MiCA 2 or some kind of bespoke regulation or derogation-based regulation or whatever. But these are things that haven't been addressed in MiCA 1. So getting regulators to understand that, for example, like a liquid staking protocol is not a CCP in the sense that you understand a central counterparty that deals with securities is also something that needs to be said, because these are the questions that they have and the teams are working on now. And so what we try to do is we try to provide like actionable research that is, let's say, fitting with the discussion at the time to make that useful to them while they're using those on, and they can use that in terms of ongoing deliberations. Otherwise, they're just clutching at straws and they find information from where they pull it. But these specific issues that are going to affect whole swaths of the industry, these are the things that we try to focus on, rather than taking like a unilateral approach and putting all our eggs in one basket from a research perspective. We really try to be surgical with what we address, and we stick to our comparative advantage, which at this stage now has been a lot of like DeFi-based work, because the broad work with MiCA has been done. Now it's the level 2 legislation and looking at DeFi over the next 18 months. And this is kind of like the hill that we need to put our stake on.
Great. So we've got one more question from Mihai from the live stream. All of the speakers will be around after. If you want to say hello and ask, grill them on your questions. Really, Vivian's over there, Owen and Eugenia are there as well.
So you mentioned something very interesting earlier, which is that the trust of the citizens in the governments has been a bit eroded lately. What is your gut feeling when it comes to the desire and the appetite for the European Union and maybe other governments to truly have sovereign citizens?
I mean,
You want to start?
Sure. Look, trying to set up a European digital identity wallet, trying to make that available, trying to get member states involved, having MC in the first place, doing all of these things, why do it otherwise? It's a costly, time-consuming, highly technical process that involves multiple stakeholders, public-private partnerships, tens of millions in funding. It's extremely difficult to achieve, and it's even more so difficult to achieve at scale. Why even begin the process if that wasn't the ultimate goal? If you look at the way that at least the EU is approaching from a consumer, let's say, consumer perspective, a lot of the provisions in the regulation that we currently have are trying to ring fence consumers as much as possible. And on the digital identity side, it's like, hey, listen, we're going to give you all the tools that you need to safeguard your own data. But you have to then take the second step and actually want to be a sovereign citizen, because the government can put all the tools in front of you. The private sector can put all the tools in front of you. But if you yourself don't take the leap and say, I want this, it's for nothing. At the end of the day, right? So we live in a society where, my phone, your phone, everyone's phone, you look at a billion things if you want. But there's only a few people out of a room which will use their phones to their full potential. And then the majority will use their phones to scroll on UC stuff. And so that's the thing. At the end of the day, it's the Pareto principle, but from a consumer perspective, if that makes sense.
Yeah. just maybe to add on this, I think to elaborate on your question was really a matter of communication, right? Because what's the relationship between the citizen and the government, right? So how the government can effectively communicate the innovations in a way that they have been perceived as a real step forward from the citizen. So to my point, we have seen among Europe the evolution of like the administration and technocratism, okay? And I think as a next steps and political step forward even is how can we build technological infrastructure so that we are not perceived anymore as technocrats, but as implementer, and we give the citizens tools that they can use to carry on services. Basic tools, networks, wallet, something to storage data, something to access data. So basic stuff so that the private industry can have some reference with product for public good, let's say, digital euro, the European wallet, to build like specific on private industry-led services and flourish the industry, hopefully.
Great. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. That's very good. Great. Thank you so much. Guys, I'm gonna take your attention for like 2 more minutes. I know everyone's hungry and it's food and more drinks and more networking. I just really quickly wanted to grab Jules from Shine, who's also one of our sponsors. So just give it a quick word.
Everyone, hope you had a great night. Amazing for Crypto Money London to be here at Google. I'm Jules Fernandez. I'm founder of Shine, and we are a brand and marketing champions really for early stage founders and businesses. And we help those founders and those businesses define what their value is. To speak to what Erwin was saying about value, it's so important to understand what your product and what your service is about, but specifically for your target audience. And that's what we do. And that's some of the work that we do with Crypto Mondays London, who are one of the many amazing founders and people in this world who are trying to make the world a better place. I want to invite the team up on stage, the Crypto Mondays London team, to come up here for their penultimate event of the year. One.
So everybody gives their time as a volunteer, which is really nice.
So okay, thank you guys. So because here. So because these guys are volunteers, they work tirelessly behind the scenes. You have no idea how much energy, creativity, and care that they put in. And all we're really asking for you guys to do, I know some of you have told me at previous events, I'm sick and tired of filling out your survey. We've done a bigger one for the kind of end of the year, just to torture you. So look, it's just literally 2 minutes of your time. You have no idea how much it will help. We really want to make everything better and grow in 2020-24. We want your positive comments. We want your constructive comments. Please, please, please grab the QR code. It's just 2 minutes for all the volunteer work they do. So please fill it out. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you. The bar, the food is all open, guys, so go help yourself.
All right, cool. So now we need to set up for interviews. All right, cool. We're gonna go set up for interviews until the battery runs out. So let me go position. I've got to go set up to do like little mini interview.
Mr. Harding's just setting up interviews, guys. Hope you guys are enjoying this alternative to game.
Between you don't have to do it now, but Communicate. Okay, so we will sit. What's good? What's good? What's good? My king, what king? What's good? What's good? We are gonna do little mini interviews with people that are here. Where do you think? What's a better backdrop? This, the deck chairs like this, or like this? The black ones, yeah. Let's go here. All right, cool. So we'll sit here. Or should we go more in the corner? Let's go this. Let's go. Thinking that side or this side. Because I don't want to be in people's way, and I don't want to block people from networking. Let's go. This is Genevieve stuff anyway, so we can go here. Because I want Genevieve to be one of the first people anyway, so it's all good. What are you saying, broski? Yo, okay, actually, now you can be one of the first. So let's first interview. Let me get the sound back on here. Can you hear us? You can.
Yo. Yeah, I
What's
can hear
good,
you
what's
loud and
good?
clear.
Okay, so we're gonna be doing these interviews. Genevieve stuff is here, but first of all, let's interview man like Palm. So, who are you?
I am KHG Carl,
KHG.
COO of Shuriken Sounds, Chief Operation Officer, and I'm in charge of just making sure the company goes around.
Okay. And what would you say is the thing that attracts you to Web3?
The opportunity, the futuristicness of it, being ahead of the curve, and my personal interest in new things and things that are different, unique.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if there was one thing you could tell somebody that they, actually, my favorite question: what's the one thing you know now that you didn't know before? That you wish you knew earlier?
I wish I knew earlier. Ooh.
Don't say something like getting Bitcoin earlier. Buy more stuff. Because none of it's financial advice.
I wish I would have known the impact that blockchain had. Because back then when I found out about it, I didn't think anything of it in the sense or anything deeper than just Bitcoin itself.
Yeah.
So I wish I would have had more knowledge of like the technology behind it and where that was going.
Yeah. The wider scope, the wider game.
Yeah, the why of it, not just it, why.
Okay, first. So the way that this game works is the moment I've interviewed you, you gotta go find someone else and bring them over. So, Lavinia's here anyway, so I want to get Lavinia next anyway. So, can we borrow you for 30 seconds? Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Calm. So, just grab a seat here. No worries. Okay, what time are we on? Oh, it's just gone 8:30.
Half past.
Okay, cool. So we'll do this for another 10, 20. If you can, grab me any kind of munch.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Okay, this is the queen herself. We have the queen of Web3 herself on the stream. So we are currently now live on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and obviously in the Zoom room as well. Introduce yourself to those that don't know who you are.
Hey, so my name's Lavinia Osborne, a award-winning entrepreneur and founder of Women in Blockchain Talks, the #1 global blockchain educational networking and training ecosystem
with DEI at its core. DEI, of course, stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, baby.
Yeah. We're about that. We are all about that. Blockchain Sensei. Come on, let's go.
And it's so important to say that Women in Blockchain Talks, yes, we're about women, but we're open to all genders, because one hand cannot clap, right? Try and clap with one hand.
It works slightly, but it's not
But
fully
together,
there. Yes.
we can.
That's what we can.
And we can.
Yes, that's it. That's what it's about. Okay, so we've got a set of questions that we always ask. First question is, what do you know now that you wish you knew earlier?
What do I know now that I wish I knew earlier?
Yeah, it can be about Web3, it can be about business, it can be about life, it can be about anything. Any answer?
I would say in this space, everything moves really quickly, but it also takes time to build. And so I have no regrets on the milestones I've achieved and the time that it's taken, but it has taken longer than I thought it would. And also I think knowing that cycles, you kind of know that the economic cycles go up and down, but crypto winter, man, is hard. It's hard. You gotta build a resilience that is just beyond your comprehension at one point to after the point of knowing. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're coming into space, you gotta have resilience, 100%.
Thank you. Just checking, Ninja. Is this still coming through on the YouTube as well?
I've not checked the YouTube. Let me check the YouTube.
Check the YouTube as well.
Make sure everything's streaming. 1 second. Give me a sec, dude.
I'll check the Twitter from my end.
Check the YouTube as well. Make sure everything's streaming.
Okay,
1
so that
second.
sounds like it's working. Okay, so I'll go on to the next question. So, last and final question for you, Lavinia, which is, if someone was to be able to help you with anything right now, what would be the one thing that would help you get to the next stage of where you want to be with anything that you're doing in any shape, way, or form?
Money always helps, so I'm not gonna lie. Money.
Okay.
So investment, and that could be in a form of partnership, sponsorship. So at the end of the day, that's what I would say. We're always looking for a line. I'm not going to take money from just anyone. It's got to be aligned, But I would say money helps to, move to the next level, and partnerships, right partnerships. And it's not just about money, it's about the partnerships having the right connection as well. So I would say, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know, So at the end of the day, it's all well and good saying I want money or I want partnerships, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So I would just like to I'm always open to energy coming into my space, but that energy aligns. So if it means money or partnerships or sponsorship, it just aligns, and it's like that came right at the right time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's what I would say.
Love that. Okay, cool. So, where can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. So just check out Women in Blockchain Talks, LinkedIn, Lavinia D. Osborne, LinkedIn. And of course, you can go to our website as well, womeninblockchaintalks.com. And remember, we're open to all genders. So,
Perfect. Thank you very much. It is actually coming through on the Twitter we've just seen, so that's all good as well. Perfect. What's your Twitter? Let's get you to type your Twitter in the chat.
My Twitter is
or the company Twitter, and we'll tag you.
How do I get the app?
Backspace. Shift app.
Do it.
There we go, and then it should work.
Sorry, can I copy when you've got 5 seconds?
Yeah, sure. I'm a wanted woman. I'm gonna have to go.
No worries. Thank you ever so much for your time. Thank you very much.
All right, thank
Speak
you.
soon. No worries. See you later. Okay, cool. So we'll do one more, guys, and then we'll shut down the stream. One more. I really wanted to talk to Genevieve, but she's now disappeared. Where's she gone? Genevieve has now disappeared. There is very tasty pizza here that I think I might steal from her if she's not careful. Hello, Mr. Coinbrit.
Yo, how we doing, fam?
We're good. We're good. We're
Good to see you,
We've
Michael.
interviewed before.
Yeah.
So right, let's get Izzy then. Izzy, you're gonna be last. Izzy, well, you're last. Oh, actually, we'll do Izzy and then we'll go and invade their conversation.
No.
So we're doing interviews today live from Google. So we're just gonna get you to say a little bit about yourself. So people can know a little bit about what you do. What do you do?
So I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur. I like building tools. One of the tools I built is a Lincoln Bio tool called Slink, which blockchain Sensei use.
I've had it.
I'm sure if you've spoken to them, they would have told you
What
about
cup
it.
of coffee?
I'm also kind of delving quite heavily into the generative
Oh,
AI
well, I
field.
think. I don't say hello to my webinar.
For ways to
But
basically
just come say hello,
to
innit?
monetize that externally outside of the OpenAI platform. So we're building a whole infrastructure for that at the moment.
Nice. So if people want to find you, where would they find you?
Best to speak to blockchain Sensei, and then they can direct.
That is actually quite an obvious point. Okay, so the more obvious question would be, what's the thing that you're looking for that will help you get to the next stage in whatever you're doing?
Meeting people with ideas. I like to build ideas. I like to kind of embellish ideas. My history really come from a data perspective, where we work with data, we analyze data, and we look for additional revenue streams from that data. So I would like to talk to people who have ideas, who are maybe not technically focused. Then I could help them develop those ideas and build them out.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. Pleasure. I'll be right back with you. Guys, so sorry to interrupt your private conversation, but I want to interrupt your private conversation, and we are currently now live on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Zoom at this present moment in time. So we would love you to just introduce yourselves and let people know where they can find you. Yeah. Go on, you first.
Really?
Yeah.
Start.
Yeah. Let me hail.
Okay, so I'm Mihai, co-founder and CEO of Beam. So it's BEEM.xyz. And well, Beam, it's a Web3 live streaming, live events platform, sovereign creators, sovereign content and data, white label, and live events for influencers, for communities, for brands. And you can find me on Twitter at Mihai, MIHAC, or Beam. It's BEEMXYZ.
Perfect.
Thank you for following us.
No worries, no worries. And next, Genevieve.
Genevieve, he always gets it wrong.
I always say it wrong.
So I'm Genevieve. I'm the CEO and founder of AgriLedger. And it's easy. You can find me on all platforms at AgriLedger, AGRILEDGER. And on my personal, I am MG Level, LEVEILLE. And what we do is we use blockchain technology, loosely called, because some people tell me it's distributed ledger, to support really fintech solution in terms of blended financing and giving people access to market and financial services. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Right.
Thank you, Michael, for doing all that.
No, it's
That's
all good.
amazing, man.
It's a wrap from us.
Yes. Well
Thank
done.
you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. See you later, guys. See you in a bit. Bye, 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 bye.
Alrighty. Well, guess that was a shorter episode of the game. Dublin, are you there, pal?
Yeah, I'm there, yeah.
How you doing, bro? How you doing? Did you
Yeah, I'm good,
find
guys.
anything interesting in that panel talk?
Yeah, like no, just the guy was talking about the AI helping like the fact that he's driven by ideas, helping people who have got ideas. So it was interesting, and also getting like different perspective and people's different views on the whole blockchain itself.
Definitely, man. Definitely. All right, then, my bro. Cool. Well, are you coming to
How do you
Game
find
Ball
it? How do
Rally?
you find it?
Sorry,
Yes, yes. What date is that? What date is that again?
this Friday, my bro, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Free.
What time? Yeah, 11 p.m. Yeah. What time does that start? 11 a.m.
No, no, it's gonna be 1 p.m. till 5 p.m. Greenwich Uni this Friday.
Okay. Yeah, where can I get the tickets or online on your link on your profile?
I'm not even too sure, but yeah, regardless, obviously you'll be able to come. But I'll sort out tickets for you. Don't worry about that.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm there, bro. I'm there, fam. I'm there. I'll be there, man.
All right, cool,
I'll
man.
be there.
Greenwich Uni, I'll catch you there, bro, this Friday.
How you dressing? Like, is it casual, smart, casual? Like,
Casual, man. Casual. Just dress casual. Yeah, yeah. You don't have to dress up.
cool.
Don't worry. It's uni, innit? It's a
Alright.
uni.
Oh, yeah, it's true, innit?
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll be
man.
there, bro. I'll be there.
All right, my G. I'll see you on Friday. Yeah. Take care.
See you on Friday. Take
In a
care.
bit. In a bit.